Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. Thanks for supporting the community. Remember why you started.
We believe in this opportunity to work in Web3, and people coming in will be a massive shift.
There's a lot of opportunities that are not, they're lost, and their people's skills and their what they're really capable of doing is not able to be shined through right now.
Nice. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today we have a really cool guest. His name is CallMeHunch. He's been making some really cool trading videos about stacks. Now, normally, Huddle Stacks and we stay away from trading or anything related to like Bitcoin trading or anything related to like trade talk. But Kurt flagged this one, and a lot of you guys know Kurt from the ecosystem. He flagged it. He said this guy has some really cool content. He's talking about some really cool things. So, of course, we had to say, Hunch, we have to get you on this live stream. We have to talk about STX. We have to do it on a Friday because we just want to vibe with you, just talk about Web3 and all the cool shit that you're doing, all the content you're creating. But we're going to get into just a lot of topics today. Before we do that, though, how are you guys doing on this beautiful Friday?
I'm doing fantastic. I mean, a little tired from working all week, but on point.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I was tired earlier. I got some more caffeine in me. I'm ready to go for 4 more hours. So
round two.
Yeah, so we had a cool chance to catch up and just hear about your background and where you started. So let's level set for everyone watching you out there, and if you go to his Twitter, it's called the Hybrid Democrat, and so you have some really cool content. Where did you start? How did you start making content, and then what got you making content on the Stacks ecosystem?
That's a good question. So my journey to content, I guess, started before all the lockdowns happened. I was streaming on Twitch video games, trying to build up a base because I was just interested in building like a gaming type of vibe base. And it worked for a while. I had 10 to 20 people watching at a time, but I wasn't making enough money to do it. You'd have to sit at a computer for 10 hours, which was exhausting. So I decided it wasn't for me, and I moved into YouTube content. And I was obsessed with Bitcoin. I mean, like, it's all I could talk about with everybody. Like, even if you're 80 years old, 20 years old, 10 years old, 50 years old, I will talk to you about Bitcoin. So how I got into Stacks, though, is because I really wanted to understand the fundamental difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin. And I dove deep in there, and I fell down the maxi hole. The maxi hole was dangerous for me, and Stacks was kind of my outlet. Like, okay, it's not just going to be Bitcoin. There's got to be another way, but I understand the maxis, right? I understand their argument. So I thought Stacks played an important role in breaking that culture down a little bit. That's how I started making the content.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. I always tell Zero, I'm like, Stacks is for Bitcoiners that understand the value of smart contracts. Like, we understand what Bitcoin's for, but we also understand, like, hey, smart contracts are pretty cool, and if done the right way, it would be really awesome to have that on Bitcoin. So
right. I understand the value proposition for sure, and I say this in all my videos. My biggest critique of Stacks was that I couldn't use native Bitcoin for Stacks. So I don't know if I've ever gotten backlash for that, but I think that's my maxi coming out a little bit is my one critique of Stacks, but they're fixing that obviously.
I don't think it's a critique. I think it's something we all have been aware of that. Look, and frankly, there was the XBTC, and that's still around the ecosystem, but we know that especially after this whole blow up during the the bull run here just to see all these lending platforms and if you're using any counterparties that are supposed to hold your Bitcoin. Frankly, it's even kind of funny because Bitcoin was supposed to go down with the FTX collapse even more. And the only reason why it didn't is because FTX said that you were trading your Bitcoin for the Solana Bitcoin, but they never held real Bitcoin. So there's like that whole counterparty risk, right? But it's widely known in the Stacks ecosystem, it has to be native Bitcoin, which this SBTC is pretty exciting to see. But a lot of your videos around Stacks in the ecosystem, I don't think it's been like too harsh of a criticism. I think we need more people to say, hey, we need to realize this future where we're using native Bitcoin on this chain as a layer 2 to get more people to like really think about like, you know what, Stacks has native Bitcoin now. So yeah, I'm a Bitcoin maxi, but what is there more to say about it?
Right. I find that Stacks is in an interesting place because the developers are very not boisterous. They got their head in the trenches. And to me, they're breaking down the Bitcoin maxis rapidly, myself included. I mean, the best way to break down a zealot or like a fanatic about something is just integrate seamlessly. So that's the kind of thing I wanted to push in my videos, not being too hard on Stacks, but just saying like, look, if you want to be accepted, it has to work. You know what I mean? So that's what I've been trying to get across.
Oh yeah, it's true too. I mean, there's, one of the Bitcoin kind of the Bitcoiners' philosophies, the maybe it's the maxis, and their philosophy is like, hey, like, you don't need permission to use Bitcoin. So it's like, I can remember Bitcoiners being like, yo, UST, Terra Luna it's great that they're buying Bitcoin, right? And it's like, you can't control what people do with Bitcoin, right? So it's like, there's going to be all kinds of implementations with it. And so I think it's important to like kind of filter through the good and the bad, the Celsius is the BlockFis, and hopefully the Stacks could be something good.
Yeah, that Celsius and BlockFi bit me in the bottom bad, man. I got a lot of friends I told to go on BlockFi, and I regret it immensely. As a Bitcoiner, I'm always learning. I don't know if other maxis are like this, but like I'm a pretty humble guy, so like I feel really badly about that BlockFi thing and the Celsius thing, and I never promoted it that much on my channel because I'm a small channel. I'm not getting paid for anything. So, but yeah, that was brutal.
Well, I mean, so Anthony Pompliano, huge Bitcoiner, huge audience. I mean, he was pumping BlockFi at the beginning, and I mean, how many people signed up because he was talking about it? And I was just telling this to Hodl Stacks last week that it was funny because all the Bitcoiners were saying DeFi on Ethereum or other EVM chains is a Ponzi, but let me take my Bitcoin and put it in Celsius, which was the actual true definition of a Ponzi. And I mean, I even fell for like the whole Voyager thing too. And looking back, I just think how stupid I was, because how could I have thought I'm going to get 8% on my USDC forever and ever in perpetuity,
right?
And none of this would ever change. And so, but like Bitcoiners, it's I just kind of laugh because even I got sucked in, right? It's like, oh well, are you going to put your crypto at risk? But I'm going to take my crypto and put it on BlockFi, Celsius, Voyager, and these people have zero transparency. No one knew where that Bitcoin was or the crypto was going until Luna crashed, until FTX crashed, until 3AC crashed. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to get this loan back from 3AC. And then 3AC is like, I got to get this loan back from FTX. And it's like, dude, what are we doing?
Brutal.
This
Yeah.
was not how crypto was.
Man.
This is why crypto was designed, for transparency, and we totally got suckered in for that. All of us.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Speaking from the trading perspective, I've heard people talk about the second top we saw in 2021, and I've heard people say that they thought that was almost all kind of just created, like that all of that demand was coming from like FTX and things like that, where it wasn't kind of consumer demand. Have you heard stuff like that before?
The second top was actually consumer demand and FTX was like blowing up. You mean like the paper Bitcoin was going away? Is that what you're saying?
No. So
No, the opposite. The
opposite. That it was all the leverage in the system.
Okay.
Second top. Yeah.
The second top. I haven't really thought about it too much. I think the paper Bitcoin demonstrates, reflecting on it, that there was real demand. But I think it was speculative demand. I mean, even like me as a 5 or 6 year Bitcoin veteran, recommending BlockFi, it shows that I understand Bitcoin at its very essence, but I don't understand the complexities from a programming perspective, from what's possible on the chain. I don't understand everything about Ethereum and DeFi and all these things. So I think it was mostly rampant speculation, to be honest.
Yeah. Hey, well, you said something that really piqued my interest, because you said that you went to Zero Authority XYZ and you went to the site, and so we're steadily building on the Cerulean marketplace, and we do need a better design, but there are people that are starting to say, I offer this service, I would love to work with this person or that person. So we just designed the smart contracts. We definitely need to redesign the site, but when we have the smart contracts operational, the next phase will be connect your wallet, and whoever has a profile, a Web3 profile that will be driven through APIs, the button next to them, it'll say make an offer. And then the smart contract, the Clarity contract, will hold the collateral. You guys will work together, and then the contract will release the funds if both parties agree, hey, the work was complete. So when you said that, it made me think. But I do agree. Like the site, it looks like, okay, well, there's nothing there, but these are actually buttons where you can find people. And today's just a directory, but that was a whole push for Hodl Stacks and I, because we said, man, I would really love to find someone who does that thing and just pay them 50 stacks to get it done. I mean, how many times have you thought, man, I would really love to pay someone just to get this one thing done?
Right. So this is like a contract type of service. You can hire people and use smart contracts. Is the vision? Is that what I'm understanding?
That's the vision. That's the vision.
Right. So that's interesting. So as someone who recommended BlockFi and all the things I didn't truly understand, the best teacher to me of stacks and Web3 has been Xverse, because I go on my little app, I connect my wallet, and I can buy NFTs, I can swap on Arcadico, I can, stake on Alex Go. So for me, who's been doing this for 5, 6 years, the best teacher was that connect wallet button. So if I can connect a wallet and interact with it and see what I'm doing, that's the guiding force, I think, of a good product in Web3. And one of the things I love about Stacks, and I'd be interested to see if you guys ever use like Phantom Wallet or MetaMask, if it's as seamless as, what do you call it? Xverse.
So I would say MetaMask is pretty seamless, but I don't know. The problem on Ethereum sometimes is you kind of get there. There's so many eyeballs on Ethereum where like you feel like every time you click something, you're like, oh, am I really clicking the right thing? I'm always second guessing myself. Whereas like here in Stacks, it's kind of like you just have the OGs and like everything's so simple. And you're like, oh, I know the guy that made this thing. So I know that this is safe. So it's like since it's small, I feel a lot more comfortable. And like whenever I'm trying anything else out, I'm like checking 3 times, making sure this is like, the right freaking banana swap or whatever,
And speaking about that, and I told Huddle Stacks, I lost some USDC recently because I went to the wrong site. It was a perfect phishing site. And if you have kids that are young, do not have MetaMask or Xverse on your mobile wallet. Do all that stuff from your computer when you have time, because if you get lazy for one moment and go to the wrong site, boom, they get you. Especially with MetaMask, since the post conditions, it's so easy to just give them access to all of your crypto. And yeah, so I'm in that same boat. I've used Phantom, I use MetaMask, but it's just so treacherous out there that you're like second guessing yourself every time, because okay, yeah, I want to use the latest app. All right, I want to use a layer 2 solution, but I don't even know if that's the right site. So I'm really afraid to connect this wallet. Or you just find that you're always connecting your wallet that you don't have any crypto in, but you just want to test these things out.
Yeah. The one other thing too is for Stacks they use Clarity, which is different than Solidity, and so for Clarity, whenever you interact, they show you the post conditions. They show you exactly what's going to happen before you click that button. So there's a little bit more of like a UX, like kind of like a protectionist sort of implementation, whereas like the other ones, it's kind of you're on your own. Like, so.
Right. So you guys talking about this has made me think. I think one of the main reasons I haven't been using those wallets and interacting like I have with Stacks is the fees. And this is one of the reasons I think Stacks is in a good position as well, which I probably should bring up on some of my videos, is Stacks is small, which is what you brought up, Hodl Stacks. You could trust the community, but that makes them a little more agile, right? So like when the fees spiked during the .btc craze, everybody was getting the names for .btc, the numbers or whatever. Even I participated. The speed like dropped dramatically. Like I could not settle a transaction. I was posting on Twitter, is this working? And Munib is just like, oh, we're working on Stacks 2.1. We're going to blah, 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 hyper chains. We're going to take care of this. Like it's so, because it's smaller, it can adapt rapidly. And because Bitcoin is a separate chain and is slower like Ethereum to adapt, where Ethereum's like, oh, we're going to introduce sharding, which takes like 5 years or whatever. So I think that gives Stacks a real good chance to kind of take the cake and run with it a little bit, if that makes any sense.
I always say if you're truly a Bitcoiner, and Patrick Stanley was recently, and Trevor was recently put out, if you should be maximalism on owning your crypto, you should be a maxi on money separation from state and from government, right? If you're truly a maximalist, why are you attacking Stacks? Stacks is trying to build a future where you can have these decentralized contracts and decentralized apps on top of Bitcoin. Why attack it? If you're trying to, if you want to own your digital ownership, your crypto, and you really truly believe in this world where everything will be built on Bitcoin, well, why not give Stacks a try? That's what I always say. And it's funny to see Maxi saying, oh, well, Stacks is a scam and Ethereum is a scam and all these other shit coins are scams because Bitcoin is just the truth. But yeah, by the way, go ahead and use BlockFi to get your 3% APY. And it's like, hey, come on.
Right. I have a theory about this. And I think the maxis are in the right direction, but it's misplaced, and chime in if you want. But I think that we are sort of in like an everything bubble. Like, do I think it's going to collapse at some point, the financial system? I'm not sure, but I think you're seeing like, whether it's NFTs or they call them shit coins or penny stocks or whatever. I think Bitcoiners think this is all a byproduct of like the Federal Reserve money printing, so on and so forth. And Stacks is no different than that. So I think they have a point in that. But what I think they're getting wrong about Stacks is if we are going to move to stateless money, you have to have an infrastructure for that money. And the Lightning Network works, and other things, layer twos that don't use other coins may work. But that doesn't mean there's not other solutions to bring Bitcoin to the masses. And I think Stacks is kind of caught in the crosswinds of this everything bubble that Bitcoiners think exists, right? And I kind of fall in that camp. Like, I do think there's like mass speculation everywhere. Productivity is drained from the economy because money is just like nobody understands money anymore, essentially. So I think Stacks gets flack because of that. I think they just think it's another shit coin, but I think it's misguided attacks.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. I mean, I look around at stuff bouncing around and equities and whatever else, and I think of that chart that a lot of the Bitcoin maxis post. I think it's originally from that book, When Money Dies or whatnot. It's like Germany in the early 1920s, and it's like the price of the mark versus the gold mark, and it's like, as opposed to like this parabolic graph that you think it would be, it's like a parabolic graph with a bunch of heartbeats in it. So it's like, as opposed to things just going vertically up, like Bitcoin's going to go up forever. It's like there's these pumps, and then there's massive drains, and then there's pumps, and there's massive drains. And I kind of feel like that's what we're in. And like what we just saw this past year was, when the rug gets pulled out from everybody. So it's like, it better not have leverage and all of that. And they say that a lot of people in that time that were like, a lot of people had a hard time holding their wealth because it was so scary seeing things just go up in value and then shoot all the way back down. And you thought, oh, okay, things have finally reached a stable point, and then it happens again and again.
Right. So, and I think there's a component where the money printing, it kind of makes you a little bit insane, but also a little bit, I don't want to say stupid, but like the inability to think. Like, for example, Ray Dalio talking about money recently. I don't know if you two saw that, but it's almost like he was describing Bitcoin, but like not realizing he was describing Bitcoin. So
you are, and I love Ray Dalio. I love how he's retired and he's like really been putting out I think you're talking about the Changing World Order.
Yeah.
I love that whole series because this is what I tell people too. Bitcoin taught me about money.
Right.
Bitcoin teaches people what is money. And then you start learning about the principles of scarcity, portability, durability. And then those are the characteristics of money. Then you start to learn about the Federal Reserve. And here's the crazy part, right? Because Bitcoin has taught me more about macroeconomics and the Federal Reserve and what money is more than any college course or high school or anyone has ever taught me. And I'm sure you guys are, and I know Hoddle's in the same camp as me, but here's the crazy thing, right? So the Federal Reserve, their target rate is 2% inflation. And people say, oh, that's good. We got to get inflation back down. But what you don't like really think about is 2% perpetuity inflation forever and ever. That's why the dollar is 99% worth less than it started in 1900. So in the next century, it's going to be declining another 90%. That's a built-in mathematical property.
Right. Of money.
When you think about that, it's like, yeah, we got to get inflation down to 2%. But we never ask the question, oh, well, if it's 2% every year for the next 100 years, well, then what does that do to the value of the current dollar? And here's where I disagree. I think Ray Dalio is spot on the world changing order. He thinks China is the next rising power, but I think he's missing the boat that Bitcoin is the next rising power.
Right. Right.
That's what I truly believe. And at some point in the future, Bitcoin is going to reach its maximum value, whether that's 20, 30, 50 trillion. And then it will be seen as the world's currency.
Right. Right. I agree. I completely agree. And I think that's the one reason as a Bitcoin maxi, well, not a Bitcoin, I call myself a recovering Bitcoin maxi, as like a Bitcoin first.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to give a true Bitcoin OG a shout out, and he's like he's one of our favorite Hodl Stacks and I, Ragnar. So I mean, he has a ton of followers. He's been in Bitcoin since the beginning, and he's building on Stacks now. He has seen, you know what, we need to make Bitcoin more usable. If we truly believe Bitcoin is the truth and the answer to our problems, we can't just have it as a static asset that doesn't improve over time. And so he's been someone that we really love to see.
Well, jumping back to the Ray Dalio thing, I think Ray Dalio is spot on. I think the world is changing, and Bitcoin needs to keep innovating with that, just like China is, just like the US is. But I think as a Bitcoin first type of guy, or maxi, or whatever you want to call me, I think that's why I hodl. Like, as painful as it is, I mean, my net worth was dramatically higher a year and a half ago. I mean, like I was like, oh, my life is, oh, I'm good now. Like, and then it's like, okay, gonna keep working. Like, but like I keep going because there's something more than just myself there. Like I don't want to become like a ultra totalitarianism or communist. Like, I just want the world to be like connected, like, and friendly and nice. And I see Bitcoin and Stacks and any layer on top of Bitcoin that wants to build that infrastructure as the way to that goal, right? Like, you know, globalism may have failed, but there's something about globalism too. Like, the world is supposed to just be like one world, right? We're like not supposed to be like throwing bombs at each other and like hating each other because they make oil better than we make corn or whatever it is. So I just wanted to finish on that note.
Yeah. And it's, you know, I think it's interesting too. When you think of like when the future of a Bitcoin economy look like once that happens, and, you know, in person transactions, yeah, sure, maybe you have something like Strike, or you got Lightning and all of that. And then for like simple things like buying and selling online for like Amazon, maybe, yeah, you just use Lightning. But for like, you know, mortgages, for sports betting, for all these other things, that it's like, you know, obviously as soon as you start introducing programmability, if you don't have that in some secure way, then you don't have then all of a sudden you have the risk that's an attack vector on that Bitcoin moving around. And I think that's something that, you know, people don't think a lot about, is like, how are we going to move all this Bitcoin around online in a secure way? You know, if it's just peer-to-peer, it works, right? It's perfectly secure. But as soon as we add complications to it, which modern economy is very complicated. I mean, you try and do anything, it's pretty complicated. And I think that, you know, I think that's something that gets lost. It's like, hey, we just want to use this as money. It's like, well, money is pretty complicated today. And
it's very complicated. Yeah. Credit and all that. I mean, sometimes I'm still confused how money is created, even though I've studied it for years now. Like, I'm still like, well, is it really there? Is it destroyed? Is it created when the credit gets issued? So it's very confusing. And that's why I like Bitcoin. I understand it, right? Like, I understand the money, and I understand Stacks too a little bit too. So that's why I like them.
I think it's a beautiful thing too. You know, Bitcoiners, some of them talk about like, oh, you know, I spend my Bitcoin like that. I don't use fiat, right? I just use Bitcoin or whatnot. And it's like, hey, you know, Stacks is proof of transfer is like, hey, the only way that anybody ever gets any stacks is this thing is mined and someone has to take their hard-earned Bitcoin and pay for it. They have to mine it with their Bitcoin.
Yeah,
And
so it's like a product. You're purchasing a product almost.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
stacks. That's interesting. I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah, so in a way, it's like, hey, like even if the Bitcoin economy takes off and everybody uses it, stacks is one of the first things where it's like, hey, our market's settled in Bitcoin. Now, you know, however many sats it is per stacks token, sure, like we can figure that out. It's demand and supply, but it is kind of a beautiful thing. It's like there's always that every 10 minutes there's that consistent demand. So
that's interesting the way you put it, because I fall into Maxi camp where I do think like Ethereum is like a kind of like a part of the everything bubble, right? But to have something that connected to Bitcoin like stacks, right? Like the hash, like when a transaction goes through on stacks, and you can explain this to me because I'd love to know. It gets hashed onto the Bitcoin blockchain, is what I've been told. To have something that close in relation to Bitcoin, it furthers the cause of Bitcoin, right? So my question for you is, do you understand what that means? First of all, it hashes onto Bitcoin. Yeah, explain that to me if you know.
Yeah, let me while you're talking about that, HODL, let me pull up the Explorer, because they've actually made some recent additions that I really like. So why don't you take it away?
Okay, so what happens is every stacks block, their transactions settle on stacks, and then it essentially gets ported to the Bitcoin chain in a hash. So what that means is that essentially once that data is on Bitcoin's very hard to store a lot of data on. You see that with, you know, people very upset with Taproot and these NFTs and whatnot. It's like, you know, Bitcoin wasn't meant to be very heavy. It's pretty light in terms of data. So the hash is essentially just a way to store that information on there, and then we can, on stacks, we can reference back to it. And so once it's on the Bitcoin chain, it's just as unchangeable as how much money's in your wallet or my wallet. And so at that point, when we point back to the Bitcoin chain and say, okay, who owns this Megapont NFT? You can go, look back at Bitcoin and you say, okay, that's where that's coming from. And so in order to change who owns that Megapont NFT, you're going to have to change the history of Bitcoin.
Right. And
so at that point, it's like, you know, Stacks is using Bitcoin as its source of truth in everything it's doing. And
that's interesting.
And you could see there from the way that, and it's always been like that, where you could trace it to the anchor block in Bitcoin, but they've done it where it's like super easy to see, okay, well, I could see that this block was created and on Stacks, and now it's anchored to that block on Bitcoin. And then I could even open up the block explorer on Bitcoin to see how it all settles.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. I think that's vitally important to Stacks, that it uses Bitcoin as like a time chain almost, which is how Satoshi referenced it, right?
Satoshi said that it's a network that's separate, but you can settle on Bitcoin.
Right.
And this is where the Maxis completely missed the boat. They're like, well, no, I don't see it. No. Satoshi literally, he told us that this is possible and that we should do this.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like Bitcoiners and Maxis that it, like, when you get into it, it teaches you not to trust anyone. And it's like, seeing Stacks, it makes me not even trust the Maxis. Like, I don't even trust the Bitcoiners who are telling me not to trust anybody. So,
if you follow the Bitcoin Maxis, you missed out on a lot of gains over the years too.
Right, for sure.
And Stacks doesn't peg itself as the next 100x coin, right? From Munib to Trevor to Patrick Stanley to all the builders on Stacks, we all know it's a gas token. We don't claim that it's this pristine asset. Bitcoin is the pristine asset. But if you're going to create this modern economy with smart contracts talking to
Right.
other smart contracts, where you have the crypto moving around by these contracts talking to each other. You have to have something that is smart enough to do that, right?
Yeah, I think Stacks is a very dynamic addition to Bitcoin, and I just don't understand the maxis that hate on it. I mean, I guess I do because I am a maxi. It's in some respects, hating on Ethereum at points and things like that. But Stacks is, like I said, the hash is right there, and you can reference it. It's so connected. I just don't understand the hate.
Yeah, I think where some of it comes from is it's like they kind of want to keep the sales pitch for Bitcoin simple. So it's like, when you're onboarding somebody new and they're, just got their stocks or whatever, and you're like, hey, there's this thing out there, Bitcoin, and like, here's what's wrong with the world, and Bitcoin fixes it. And, if you try and talk to them and kind of like you're pitching it to them, and then you say, oh yeah, but there's this Stacks token, and then there's a bunch of stuff on Stacks, and it's like, I think it complicates it. So like, whenever I talk to people, it's like, you know what, if you're new to this, just buy yourself some Bitcoin. Like, I don't even try and sell them on Stacks immediately. It's like, get used to holding Bitcoin and understanding its value. And, if you think that's a world that, is worth having in the future that's built around Bitcoin, then I can tell you, hey, like maybe Stacks is something that you might be interested in. But
yeah,
I don't really try and actively sell people on Stacks because of that. Like, it's like, get the fundamentals down, right?
So I have a question for you too. Do you guys view the other chains like I view them? Like, you introduce the smart contracts at the base layer, and it sort of makes it vulnerable to attacks, less decentralization, all those things, or do you think there is some merit to Avalanche, Ethereum, Solana, those types of things?
So, Zero, you want me to jump in first?
Yeah, go jump in, because and then I'll jump in next.
Okay. One of the guys in Stacks, and he's like a Bitcoiner too. His name's Chainlink or Chainlinky. Wait, is that?
No.
What's his name? Not Chainlink. You know who I'm talking about, Zero, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Checkmate.
Checkmate. There we go. Sorry. End of the day.
That's him. Yeah. Checkmate. Yeah. I know him.
Yeah.
So what he's
another Bitcoiner who's like been vocal in the Stacks ecosystem, but has been also an advocate for the Stacks system too, or ecosystem.
Yeah. What he's talked about is all these other chains, if they're trying to be money and a gas token, to me that doesn't work, because one of them, its utility comes from holding it, and the other one comes from using it. So those two dynamics just don't work together.
Right.
You either have your reserve currency that's used as, what it should be for, and then you have something that has a utility on it and is used, like, I always use the comparison of like gold and oil. It's like, if we tried to have our whole economy based in oil, well, no one would want to be spending oil to make goods or services or drive around.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I compare the two. And, if Ethereum's trying to do that, or Avalanche, it's like, if it has utility in itself, okay, maybe you're making a bunch of trade-offs in terms of you're choosing speed over security or something like that. I think that's what a lot of the other chains are doing. But, if you value security and you value kind of Bitcoin being the reserve currency, and you want to use it, then I kind of view it as you got gold and then you got oil. So it's separate.
Yeah. The Ethereum maxis say Ethereum is the money, right? It is the reserve type of currency, and it's trying to compete directly with Bitcoin. Do you find that to be the case with like Avalanche and Solana? They are also trying to be money, or they're fully aware that they're not money and they're trying to be a gas token?
I think maybe it's not on their plan right now, but I think they want to be money just like Ethereum wants to be money. I think at the end of the day, they realize that the token in itself, if the token's the base layer of everything, they're going to want that to be treated as money. They want their NFTs priced in it. They want all of the other stuff priced in it. when it comes to like stuff on a DEX. So they want it to be treated like money. And I think Ethereum's, it's just like that on Ethereum.
Interesting.
So here's my take, and it's really simple. It's super simple. And the further we get into this world, it really reminds me of coming out of what they call the aughts, the 2000s, where there's this new shit called social media. We don't know what it is, but it's fucking taking over the world. Okay, right? And so we all agreed, okay, these social networks are going to be something over time, right? I have two thoughts on that, actually. But the first one is people start to say, okay, well, what is the business of social media? Well, then you have your daily active users, your monthly active users. You can assign a CAC to that. What is the user acquisition cost? So then you start to have these really fundamental metrics, right? And this not really important to the conversation, but it happened in the SaaS model too, where software as a service over time, while the annual recurring revenue is a key metric, then you have marketplaces and they have certain metrics. So now I'm starting to see some really important people in the crypto space. They say, well, what is the business of blockchain? The business of blockchain is how much does it cost for block space? And so you won't hear this that much because it's still really nascent. And then you have all these other layer one chains like the Ethereum, Solana, Stacks, and it's not going to be really predominant. But by the time we get to this end of this decade, the question is going to be how much does block space cost on that chain?
Right.
We all know this is going to be a multi-chain world, and it's going to be bifurcated between the Western world and some of the Eastern philosophies, right? Now, here's an important thing, and this is what I tell hodl stacks a lot. If you just look at crypto fees, it's really simple. How much does block space cost, and how much are people paying for it? And if you just filter on layer ones, okay, well, you can see Ethereum, Bitcoin, BNB, Polygon. So, dude, no matter what the fuck someone tells you about this protocol or that app or these NFTs, this is where you put your money where your mouth is. Are you using this thing or not? Because if you're using it, you pay for the block space and you pay for transactions. So that's why I tell people it's really important to understand what is the business of blockchain. Well, the business is how much you're paying for that block space. And then on that note, this is where people don't realize let me do this. Let me just quickly just do this. This is where the EVM competitors don't realize they're not competing with Ethereum. They're competing with Ethereum layer 2s. This is what makes me more bullish on like Lightning Network, like Stacks, or even RSK that's building on Bitcoin, because the market it's an ocean that's wide open, right? If these Solana thinks it's kind of like a sports rivalry where I'll give you an example. Like if the Lakers are playing the Charlotte Bobcats are really excited about this game. Lakers, they couldn't give a shit about the Bobcats. Bobcats think it's a rivalry. The Lakers don't even fathom like, hey, you're not even in our league. And that's what's happening. Like Solana, Avalanche, they think, yeah, we're competing with Ethereum. They're not even in the same league. They're actually competing with the Ethereum layer 2s. So these are just like fundamental things to understand how crypto fees and the business of blockchain works. So that was the first point. And the second point is it's wide open for Bitcoin to build a layer 2. And when you start to come around to, okay, well, I do believe Bitcoin is the hardest form of money. I do believe it can't be just confiscated if I self-custody.
Mm-hmm.
You start to come around to these ideas, and then you start to learn about stacks, how the programming language was set up to not be Turing complete, and it's readable, it's easily learned, right? I'm not saying Solidity isn't. I'm saying people are learning Solidity on Ethereum and the EVM chains, but this is what makes me bullish on stacks, because if they just capture some of that market, well, then we can realize this future.
I think one of the questions you were going to ask me was what are some of the projects I like the most on stacks. This leads
I was curious, like what projects you like on stacks, or even in on Bitcoin layer 2s, or
right. And I think in what do you call it? Vitalik references this at some point. He talks about city coins. So I'm a kind of like a global thing. I think globally about Bitcoin. Like, how is it going to change the world? How is it going to break down the walls and division in this world and progress humanity? And if it did become the global money, which you guys stated, to me, that almost defeats the purpose of decentralization, right? If there's only one and that's it, there is no decentralization. Everybody's just united, and that may look good or that may look bad. I don't even know if that's a good outcome, to be honest with you. But if Stacks has layers distributing city coins, and those cities have their own money, right? And Miami has their own money, Houston has their own money, or Florida or Texas. To me, that looks more like the Constitution and states' rights and separation of the federal government and then the state governments. That is even more of a vision of decentralization to me than just having Bitcoin everywhere. Yes, Bitcoin is the global reserve currency. You can trade it for these local currencies. But stacks can also bring that vision of separation of money and state, right? And still have like a functioning government. Like, I'm not convinced yet that no government is the solution. I sort of feel that way, like Bitcoiners, but I also am sort of a realist in saying, okay, well, there's still maybe a government, but how do we keep it decentralized and not, getting too much power? And city coins, to me, whether I understand enough or not about it, is a way to progress that agenda. So I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well, obviously, and the way I think about, so here's something, city coins, and I know a lot of new people coming into stacks, and now that we're in the crypto winter, it doesn't get the credit that it deserves, right? It literally, these city treasuries went from their standard budget to now we have millions of dollars in stacks in a treasury. By the way, because you hold stacks, you can stake your STX and earn Bitcoin.
Right, that's incredible. I think that's
before that even happened, they didn't have that at all. So to go from zero to we have 20 million in a treasury that we can literally fund the whole government of Miami or just some of the activities in Miami.
Right.
One, that's insane.
Right.
It doesn't happen. And then here's a second part too. You can build on top of Citycoin as a protocol.
Right.
So it's technically almost like a layer 3.
Right.
It's like a layer 3. Now, people in your day-to-day, right? Usually you exchange USD for something. But usually if you have a neighbor, you'll say, hey, can I use that thing and you get this thing? In the age-old bartering system, right? You can, and in crypto, you can pay in Bitcoin, you can pay in stacks, you can pay in Miami coin or New York coin, and giving these municipalities their own type of I'll just say bartering system and a way to just transact natively. That to me is cool. And this is another way where crypto is teaching people about civics. Otherwise, you never cared about what the local Miami mayor was doing, but
Mhm.
now you care because their city treasury has 20 million in stacks earning Bitcoin, and they have this thing called Miami Coin where you can build, and they were building some protocols on top of it. So the whole concept of it, when Patrick was telling me about this, because he created Freehold, which was going to be this whole decentralized kind of marketing concept. And then he went on to create this. At first, I didn't get it, but over time, I thought, wow, this really changed how people view city, just kind of city civics, just civics, and what a city could do with crypto.
Right. I agree. Go ahead, Huddle. Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, I think it's like I saw a post the other day, and it was talking about, how come we don't have any cities in the West that look like Singapore? Like, I saw videos of like what it looks like, and it's like, man, Singapore just looks like they're like 30 years ahead of us. It's such a clean city and like just beautiful. A lot of times like we build things today for utility, not for like beauty or whatnot. And I think it is interesting. It's like, yeah, what is going on in the West? And for something like city coins with a certain dynamic, maybe it could give the opportunity to have like a rise of more like city states where you have the ability to kind of be kind of exceptional. Whereas I think the larger forms of government, things get more and more mundane. So it's like if you have the ability to really exceed expectations, and then you're rewarded via the mining and city coins, right? So people are saying, hey, you guys are doing really well. Here's a feedback mechanism. Like, we're more willing to mine this because we think that you guys are, and we want to, and also you want to have a say. I think that's where, something that probably was needed to be tweaked a little bit with city coins is, hey, we're going to mine, and that treasury is given to you guys, but also us holding the city coins gives us the ability to kind of help steer your ship. So like you guys don't go awry. So I think that was something that probably was needed to be tweaked, but it's an interesting idea because like you look back in history at like Venice and some of these other places where some of the first banks and some of the first like real gold came from, and people would use that as currency. And it's like, man, they were so much better than the rest of Europe at the time. And it's like, man, like if you could incentivize people to use Bitcoin first, imagine how great those cities will be compared to.
Right. I also think you can build like a bond structure on top of city coins or something, like a municipality bond, as like a millennial or whatever they call me. I've never bought a municipal bond. Like I'm not interested in it. The returns are too small. I don't care about it, but like city coins maybe is an interesting way to get me involved in the outcome of the city, like it flourishing or not, like you're saying, HODL stack. So I think it's the most interesting. And if it can take off, it'll be the most important project on stacks other than maybe DeFi.
By the way, I'm curious, did you hear about either Geno Bank or it was Eggs Chain at all?
Eggs Chain. I've heard that for some reason. I can't remember what it is though.
So one of the things too, and this is why I get like super bullish on stacks. So on stacks, you have something like a city coins, right? Where this is re-engaging how crypto works with civics. You also have just kind of the unique proof of transfer. Then you'll eventually have SBTC, which is native Bitcoin on stacks. Another thing that we saw the rise of was NFTs for bio data on stacks.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So
that's nuts.
We had a chance because Zero Authority DAO, we talked to a lot of founders and teams building on stacks. Also, we're building our own marketplace, but we had the opportunity to help a lot of the teams just put some content together, and the ability to create these NFTs with your bio data that you own. We talked to Daniel. He's a founder of Geno Bank. We talked about I'm so afraid to put my data on 23andMe. I can't tell you how many shows I've heard like, oh yeah, we just pulled their DNA because it was in the database.
Right.
And
You
everyone's
don't
like,
own it.
oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad we found that person, or I'm glad you guys did that. But then I always think, well, didn't they probably just use 23andMe because they just wanted to see their ancestry? Or you should own that data. But what GenoBank is doing is saying, no, you'll have your Web3 wallet where you own your DNA data and bio data, and it's on chain, and you own it, and you give access to whoever needs that. That's the way that should work. Because I worked in healthcare too, and as a cyber analyst, you don't want health records released to the bad guys, because once you have personally identifiable information and you have financial records, the health data, that's a trifecta. I could become you. I can submit false claims, because the thing about health data, it never changes. My DNA is going to be my DNA, the same DNA for the next 1 million years.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part. So this is where I get bullish, because people building on stacks, they're leading us into the future.
Right.
So you don't even hear about these things, but this is built on stacks. They're not building
real businesses.
Ethereum.
Yeah. Right.
Right. It would be scary to build that on Ethereum.
Agreed. That's why I keep sticking with stacks, even though I've criticized it a lot. Is there's real people like you, like the eggs chain guy and the DNA stuff. Those are real people building real solutions. Like, I know this sounds crazy, but if you don't own your DNA and you send it to 23andMe, I mean, 150 years from now, you could be dead, and your great grandson or whatever, or daughter is like, I want to clone my grandfather, or you know what I mean? And they do something crazy with like this DNA that you never gave permission to, or you know what I mean? So I can foresee it.
We're coming up on an hour, and usually we're close to the end. Before we go, Hunch, I did want to ask you, so what's your trading strategies on stacks, and what patterns are you seeing for this year?
So for stacks, I see it as, because it's not getting a lot of notoriety, like the game coins and all that. I think it's going to be one of the ones that Bitcoin is going to have a bull run first, a significant bull run. And then I see stacks following suit. Now that can change at any point with this ordinals thing. People start seeing the value in stacks, and it gains a little more of that notoriety marketing type of style, kind of thing where people go nuts over it. But I just see it building a nice base where it is between here and $1. And then after Bitcoin has its bull run, I think it's going to take off, and break its all-time high, and then probably go up 5 to 10x from that. Just because I do think it's going to break that all-time high, and it's going to be way more recognized, just because of like NeoSwap, Exchange, City Coins, all those things. So I'd be stacking here. I don't know if I'd be trading it. I know that I made a video last week, and it's kind of at the point where if it forms a base, it's going to take off. So it kind of did that cup and handle, and then it reached that 31 cents. So if the market can hold, I do think it's going to go up from here. So trading strategies, though, I'm not a huge trader. I'm more of like an accumulator. Let's watch the chart, make sure the fundamentals are right, and talk about overall what's going on with the chain. So.
Well, you did mention the Electric Capital report too, and I thought that was cool, because when I saw that last year, that stacks was and granted, people are still coming around to the idea of building on Bitcoin, but seeing that, I thought that was cool to see that there's a use case for stacks, and people are coming around to the idea.
Right. Yeah. I would love to see the developer that report next year, and see the developers either stay stable or go up a little bit, and take some market share from some of the other ones. I think it's going to happen. I think it's getting to the point of inevitability. I don't think it's there yet, but I think if they can get a few more people like you building on top of it, it's really going to take off. So I would watch that report closely. And if it goes down, like I said, I'm critical of stacks. I'd be careful. I think it does need to build momentum. with developers, with businesses. And I think it will, because I do think legitimate businesses are building on top of Stacks. So I got a lot of hope, Yeah.
So do you also do a lot of Bitcoin trading too? Or are you
have I done trading? I have done trading in the past, but like I said, I just got married. I got a lot of expenses. And to be a trader, you have got to have all your focus on trading. I think most of the things on Twitter you see, I think most of it is a lie. I don't think people are making ungodly amounts of money trading. I do think maybe there's some legitimate players, but those are far and few in between. So I'm more of an accumulator. I have traded, but what I found is I can't do it as a full-time job. I just don't have time for it. So accumulate.
Yeah.
As fast as you can, bro.
Yeah.
As fast as you can. I think it's gonna go. I don't know if you saw the video where I called the crypto winter. Like I was like, I knew it was coming. Like, and I couldn't sell because of all those things we talked about. But I'm pretty good at noticing like big trends. Like, okay, we're going down from here, for sure. Like,
by the way, were you around in 2018?
That's when I got into it, the end of the
Okay.
bull run there. Yeah. Well, not the end, like 6 months before the bull run I was in. Yeah. So
did you like accumulate heavy, or were you kind of just still learning about everything?
I was, I first bought Bitcoin. It was at $700, believe it or not.
Damn.
So,
Nice.
yeah, like really early.
Now, did you trade it, or did you just hodl?
So I traded it. You know what? My first experience was with GBTC, actually, in 2000. What is it? Late 2017 or 18? I can't remember when the bull run was. I'm blanking out. But I would, make 50%, sell it, go back down. Make 25%. But it was like small amounts. I did that for like a month until I figured out how to buy Bitcoin, like literally itself. Like I had to use.
It's funny you say that, and I'm asking you this question, and I appreciate you being honest, because in 2017, like I had, I don't remember how much Ethereum I had, but I swapped it all for Stacks ICO. But at the height of what I swapped in 2021 and April, that same amount of Ethereum would have been $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you, and a lot of people say, "Oh man, if I bought Bitcoin at $100, or if I bought Ethereum at $50, I would have hodled it." And I tell everyone, you wouldn't have. You would have traded, because you won't believe like the volatility on this thing was going up like crazy, and it's like, oh man, I'm gonna make a lot of money, so let me sell it, let me buy low, and then especially 2018, because I had some life situations going on, I totally kind of stopped paying attention, and then by 2020 coming around to the next halving, I started paying attention, and I was like, oh man, I missed out on all those gains. But a lot of people think because they would have bought early, they would have just hodled. And that is not the case.
It's not the case at all. It is not the case. I rode it all the way to 20. I rode it all the way down to 3. And like in my video, I'm like, oh, you did too? Okay, yeah. It was brutal, man. Like I expect more from myself, but listen, man, it was tough, and it's still tough to this day. It's still tough for me to hodl. But it's like Bezos starting Amazon or something. Like there's good times, there's bad times. But I hope I'm going to the right thing here. It's I'm sure by the end of it, when I'm like really loaded and I can stop working, I'll have some PTSD from it, man, because it's been a ride. It has been a ride, man. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but
I always remind myself, I'm like, the people that have made the most money in crypto are the ones that forgot where they put their seed phrase for 10 years. Literally, they didn't have a sell button because they forgot that they either forgot the keys or they forgot they even owned it. Like it's
That's so true.
I like to tell HODL, I am truly a crypto OG, a Web3 OG, not for the reasons that you would think that I'm going to say that I am, but I am truly a crypto OG now because I have lost money all kinds of ways. I've lost money by trading. I've lost money through ICOs. I have lost money by getting hacked. I have lost money by just even like sending to the wrong wallet. So
Right.
those things all happen. And if they have happened to you, you can also say you are a crypto OG. I'm not proud of the ways I've lost money, but
No.
if you're here long enough, you're going to lose money all those ways.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, I've never been hacked. I have
Not
lost
yet.
some Ethereum. Not yet. I have lost Ethereum. I don't know where the heck it went. Sending it to some MetaMask or Coinbase wallet. But
looking what I'll say the last thing here, looking back, the best time to have if you there's no way to ever go back, but the best time to cash out would have been 2017 and like just take your money and do something else with it, because at that time you could trade as much as you want, you could move money to the banks and back and forth to exchanges. There were no taxes on anything at all.
Right.
No taxes, no reporting requirements. I look back on that time like, yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Yo, Zero. By the way, this is not tax advice.
Well, and it's not because you can't go back to 2017. So
No,
Right.
I hope you don't get audited.
Listen, it's so confusing to me. If I got audited, I'd be like, good luck. I don't know what the hell is going on in these wallets. I can't track it, bro. I'd actually thank them if they audited me, because I would at least like figure out where the hell I'm at, because excuse my language, but where the heck I'm at, because I can't track it, man. It's impossible. Really. So I just hodl mostly.
The last thing I wanted to ask you, Hunch, what are you going to start building on Stacks?
What am I going to start building on Stacks? That's an interesting question. I don't know if I have enough confidence to say that I am.
Let me say this really quick too. I want to give a shout out to Setsus. He has created 100 days of clarity code. These videos are really in depth. I took a look through a couple of them, and he also created a course. So shout out to Setsus.
Wow.
Really cool stuff here.
Wow. I could watch those if I need to learn it, for sure.
Oh yeah. Yep. And his course is really good. I looked at it and it's high quality stuff.
I applied to like the thing in Miami where you could be a what do you call it? A coder or something.
The Clarity boot camps.
Yeah. Clarity boot camp. I don't think I got in, but I tried. I don't know, man. What could I build on Stacks? That's a tough question. I see myself more as an investor and philanthropist through my investments than a builder, to be honest with you.
Hey, we need everyone in this ecosystem, so that's awesome, man.
Right. Yeah. We need everyone. Agreed.
Yep. Hey, I got an idea for you. So if your YouTube channel takes off and people are following you for your trading videos and whatnot, I guess some traders, they put together like newsletters, right? So there's something on Stacks that's called Sigel. So like you can earn Bitcoin by essentially blogging.
I've heard of that.
Like Substack or anything like that. So maybe that's something you could do if things work well.
It is. I hope it works well. I needed a video editor. So if you know one that wants to work for free or like 1 to 2 sats a week, I'll shoot them the Lightning Wallet sats and the deal's done.
Well, Hunch, now that you know how to find people on zeroauthority.xyz, all you have to do is find some people who are meme masters and look at their Twitter profile.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what you guys are building. I hope it works out. I really do.
You never know with these things. We hope ultimately the ultimate goal is, and this is again why we're in Web3 and why we're building on Stacks and maybe another chain later, is because LinkedIn and all of these professional sites own your data, on your work history, how you've delivered that work history. What we're trying to change is that when you connect your wallet and you do some work with someone, you own that work history. through the NFT,
Interesting. Yeah.
you will be able to decide, hey, should I share this data with someone else? You have to give them access, Hunch. So ultimately, we're not here to be some tech disruptor. We're just here to give people ownership of their work history, their reputation that they earn.
Right. Agreed. Yeah. That's a great thing. I never even thought about it like that. There's so many things you can build, and that's insane. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
And here's the crazy part about this too, and this is where Huddle Stacks and I spend weekends and way too much time talking. But because this is an open network, you don't need to ask me for anything. All you have to do is go to. There's a couple sites someone built for being able to query the blockchain. So let me give you an example. If everyone in this network is working together and it's going through the smart contract, you can query. So let me pull up a quick example. Do you have 10 minutes here?
I got time, man. I'm not going
okay. Okay. I don't want to lose you here. Don't
I feel bad. You're going way over your time. I don't want.
Oh no. We usually keep it to an hour because we want people to come back on our live stream.
So what are you saying? You don't want Hunch to come back, man? Like,
I'll be back,
no, he's got to come back.
Yeah, for sure.
What's Carl's site? Where is it? STX Clarity. You know what I'm talking about? Huddle Stacks.
Stacks on Chain. Is that?
Yeah, Stacks on Chain.
I've heard of that.
Stacks on Chain. So here's his name is Carl, and his handle is NFTs or Stacks on NFTs, or is it NFTs on Stacks?
It's hard to keep up anymore.
It is. So he's built a way where you can query, and a lot of people. This is how I found some like really really good price ape JPEGs, by the way, or even BNS. So I'll give you an example. I love the Explorer collection, right? So he's created this really cool way to query the blockchain. If you're not a technical person, you can see all the data through these smart contracts. So what we're doing through our Clarity smart contracts, what you'll be able to do is query our smart contracts. And so, like these salary sites where it's like, how much does a blockchain developer make? And it's kind of an estimate because you're relying on someone to tell you. Because you can query our Cerulean marketplace contract, you don't have to guess how much developers or how much people that make memes make, right? So these people making memes, that's a service through the contract. And all you have to do is query it and say, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to start to train myself on how to make memes because these people are actually making on average 1,000 stacks per week. But because here's the power of Web3. These are open networks. Hunch. So no one has to get permission. And this is why we always start with Zero Authority as a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems, because no one has to ask us for permission for your data that everyone owns.
Right. That's smart. Yeah. There's so many layers to this that like, I'm sure I'll be at this another 5 years. To be honest with you, like another 5 years of PTSD and all that stuff. So they created like some really cool dashboards. This has nothing to do with us, but I'm just going to show you this really quick because the power of open networks where it's built on smart contracts, you can query all of this data. So let's look at this. NFT Alpha is like, all right, if I want to just see what are the best rankings for some of these NFTs that are the best prices, you can do that by looking at this graph, right? So, but this is all available on the blockchain. Right.
Like he didn't have to go ask, hey, can I get access to your API? He just built it.
I see.
And this is where Huddle Stacks and I, we have our profiles on LinkedIn, and it's a great service. Don't get me wrong. Indeed is a great service, but they take all that data and they pipe it to Salesforce, and Salesforce pays them to say, hey, does Hunch and Huddle, did they ever work together at a different company? They pay LinkedIn for that data. You should be paid for that data because that's your work history, but it's also your reputation.
For sure. Agreed.
You know what I mean?
I 100% agree with what you're saying.
And so we believe that when we're able to create the smart contracts where you have your work history and you earn your reputation, you should also, if people want to query how much do people that do this job make, you should get a micro payment from that, Hunch, because it was your data that you granted access to.
Right.
So that's really why we're here. We're here to give you ownership of the data that you actually own.
Right. I'm trying to take down Facebook, man. I'm with you. Let's take them down, bro. I am so pro in taking down Facebook and
so that's I wanted to show you this example where look, don't trust us. The data is here. You can get all of this data. You don't have to ask us for permission. We are not gatekeepers. We are, and this is why Huddle and I, we say if you're going to be a maxi about anything, be a maxi about digital ownership and giving the rights back to the people.
Yeah, I agree. I also think there's real world applications. Like if you can apply that to like home sales and you can look up, what did they sell for, when, how long has it been, all that data. I think that's worth $1 trillion for sure.
It is. Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
And
Zero, I was going to jump in. The other cool thing with the marketplace is like, say you're the kind of guy you want to do like videos for other people, but you also have other skills. And it's like, if, as opposed to like the corporate world where like you're just this guy like boxed in a role, it's like on this, we want people like, say you have an interest in learning new things or whatnot, you're able to go and multidimensionally kind of grow your talents, and all of that will be shown according to your BNS. So you'll be able to advertise yourself at. You're constantly able to recreate yourself. You're not boxed in some corporate job.
Dude, that is worth so much because I've been applying to jobs, but I'm boxed in a little bit to PT, but I think I got so much more to offer, than just that to any type of business. So I agree that needs to happen effective immediately.
And here's the crazy part, right? So on LinkedIn or some of these, even with your resume, you feel comfortable to say, generally, I did these things, but I mean, I do so many other things, but I can't tell you about that because I'm only applying for this one thing.
Right.
Because people will come into this marketplace, people will work on the skills that they have. Now you don't need a resume, right? And now you're earning this reputation. We haven't settled on what reputation looks like, but Ragnar is building something like that. And what we do agree on is that you shouldn't be boxing into this digital economy anymore. And also with that type of work and the need for, and this is really what I was going to say, you will generally talk about, okay, well, I kind of did this thing at this place, because you don't want to say exactly what you did because you don't know, am I breaking some rule? Can I even say that? Right. So by working with this person on this marketplace, you're saying this is exactly what I did, and this is what I exactly can do for you. And that will show on your profile with a snippet of the transaction ID on the Stacks blockchain. And so we're in this new digital age. Like Huddle Stacks and I, we laugh all the time because in our professional jobs, we have to say we do this one little thing. There are so many more things that we can all do.
I know. Yeah. I hate it. I hate it so much.
It doesn't make sense.
It makes no sense.
And you can't even talk about other things that you do because they're like, I just want to know what you can do for this one job.
I know. Like I could work in any finance industry. Like my returns are like 10 times that of like a normal manager. It's like, but like nobody can see that. I can't be like, yeah, I made $10 million. You know what I mean? Like I can't say any of that. Like that's all like private info, but they can like, oh, look at this guy's returns on the blockchain. This guy clearly knows what he's talking about in terms of venture capital, whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So this is why we get excited. It's going to take us some time to get it squared away, but we believe if we can build this and it can come together, it can change the paradigm. Because I mean, you can go to Fiverr, right? You can go to Fiverr, you can go to Upwork, but to me and to Hodl, those are still Web 2 mindsets.
Right.
In this new in our Cerulean marketplace, you may never. There are so many people. I'm sure you are the same boat. We have never met face to face. I don't even know their real ID, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you could do this thing that I need, and I could pay you in stacks or Bitcoin or Miami coin, it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Doesn't. Agreed. I'll pay to dox Hodl stacks right now. 10,000
Oh,
stacks,
God.
bro. I'll pay. I want a smart contract his image for 5-second flash on the screen or something.
Oh man. Hey man, you're the first person to ask for a flash of my image on a screen, man.
I just get it.
What you don't know is on Magic Mike, you know, it's not.
I'm just kidding. I don't even want to see, dude. And
by the way, let me give you a sneak peek to just kind of show you how it's all going to look once we're rocking and rolling. So you're going to be able to just kind of log in and say, okay, well, I got some pending work here, and I can see the transaction ID. So you'll be able to click on these IDs, and it'll take you to to actually see, okay, well, this is actually on the Explorer, and I'm actually doing this thing for this person. So we believe the future is going to be, look, like you said something earlier in the conversation that I wanted to come back to. Don't trust, verify. This is that way to do it. You said you did this work. Well, it should be on the blockchain, and we could all see it. And then you'll be able to see, okay, there was a start date, there was an end date. I did this for that person, and we all agreed. And so, man, we're just so excited for this to come together.
Yeah, I hope it does. I think it's really, really needed. I love Indeed, right? But it's almost like there's some type of insidious thing going on with these businesses that you think you're getting this great service, you're happy, and that's how a business should run. But there's a whole nother world of how it could operate, right? And the other world seems much more transparent and fair. Like, is this a fair salary? Is this not a fair salary? All those things. So righteous work. It has to be done.
It has to.
Please, I can't do it. You got to do it for me, man.
So before we wrap here, where can people, in addition to, let me pull up here your Twitter handle. Where can people find out more about you? And it sounds like you're going to start your Seigel blog here soon, so that's pretty cool.
I do. I need to start it. Thanks, Hodl Stacks, for that. So now I got to start writing essays every week. But you can find me on Twitter at Hybrid Democrat. I don't know how to change that. I need to. But there's a story behind it. But Hybrid Democrat on Twitter.
What is the story behind a Hybrid Democrat?
Oh, man. 2007.
I don't know if he wants to lose like his audience there, Zero. Come on, man. Let him.
I mean, it was crazy times back then, and I think the way the world works is democratic policies work, but the current system isn't democratic with money. So I think that Bitcoin kind of shows through that name. I'm for democracy, helping people, opening up the world, welcoming everybody. But the current way that the political parties think that that's achievable. I don't think it's achievable. And I think it's achievable through the blockchain, Bitcoin, so on and so forth. So that's how I came up with that name.
Okay.
So Hybrid Democrat, and then Call Me Hunch on YouTube until I get my sigil, which will be Call Me Hunch.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And do you is your BNS Call Me Hunch?
You know what? I don't think it is. I think it's timthetapman.btc. So if you want to buy that for me in hopes that Tim the Tapman is going to want it one day, make me an offer, man.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I would love for someone to buy that off of you right now, and then we do this live stream in 5 years, and you're just lamenting that someone bought that off of you, and now it's like worth like 5 Bitcoin.
I know for sure. Tim the Tapman, his brand's going to be huge if you're watching right now. I got your name, baby.
Oh man.
So, yeah.
Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I mean, more than we bargained for. I mean, I saw your video and I was like, man, we got to have this guy on. We got to talk to him. I just love the angle that which you come from on telling the truth about, hey, we need some alternatives. We need this future to realize. And so I don't think you've been too critical. I think you brought up some fair points. I think all voices matter and what we're trying to build here. So thanks for that, man.
Yeah, I try. I'm not a technical expert, so I want everyone to take my feedback with a grain of salt. There may be something I'm missing. Obviously, I always say not financial advice because I know it could go to zero. I'm fully aware of that. So, yeah.
Hey, and by the way, I didn't get to show you this, but if you ever get worried that Stacks is going to zero, remember there are miners who are spending Bitcoin to earn Stacks.
Yeah.
So when you get afraid that I don't know if Stacks is going to make it, just keep in the back of your mind, there's already been 2,442 Bitcoin spent since the chain has went live. So don't sleep on Stacks, man. I'm telling you.
I'm accumulating. I'm a big time accumulator, man. Not a trader, an accumulator, I say. So
and you could find this. This is let's see, I forget the name of the link. You guys could find this on app.onstacks.com if you want some reading material.
You got it all, man. I'm praying for $5 stacks by the end of the year, so let's hope it gets.
I'm praying right with you, brother.
Hey man, I'm gonna go lose my wallet for 10 years. We'll see what it is.
Dude, that's the only way, man. It's the only way. These traders are lying. You have to lose your seed phrase. So anyway, it was good talking to you guys.
You and your lovely wife, you guys have a good night. And Huddle, I'll speak to you soon, man.
Yeah. Take care, guys. Have a good
I really
weekend.
appreciate it. Yep, definitely.
Thanks so much, Hunch.
Adios, gentlemen.
Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. Thanks for supporting the community. Remember why you started.